Welcome to the Drew Yari Show.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Thursday. I know it's an odd day. I'll get into that a little late. I'll get into that in a bit. It's Thursday, August the 22nd, 2019, episode 96 of my podcast, The Drew Yari Show. I'm your host, Yari. The reason why we're doing this on a Wednesday is yesterday, I decided to make the genius decision of updating my laptop. Updating my laptop, Windows. Windows is... Windows loves to do their laptops. Windows loves updating everything. They love their updates. Even as for things that don't need to be updated. So usually whenever it updates, it'll take like maybe 10 minutes. Not even 10 minutes. This time it decided to update the whole fucking computer. Like literally everything on the computer. Not just the apps, not just drives or whatever, like inside everything in the computer. So this took roughly 3 hours, I believe. Because I remember I was going to start a show at 6 p.m. And then I decided I'll just update it. It shouldn't take that long. I was wrong, obviously. So I was basically just sitting on my bed, just staring at this laptop, waiting for it to finish updating so I can start recording. Again, obviously I was wrong. So I just decided to postpone and just do one today. Luckily, there's a lot of news going around, wrestling-related, entertainment-related. We can just start with the obvious, in case anyone's been living under a rock lately. Tuesday was announced. Let me just pull up the previous, because I have deadline up here. Previous deadline exclusives: Marvel Studios / Disney and Sony have they divorced. They announced their divorce. They're split up. And in said split up, Sony is taking back the child, which is Spider-Man. Back in 2015, it was announced that Sony and Marvel Studios would be, or not just Sony and Marvel Studios, but Sony and Disney / Marvel Studios had brought in Spider-Man as just a shared partnership, if you will. We all, before that there was the Amazing Spider-Man, that failed, miserably. Even though I liked them, they weren't that bad, but they weren't very good. And there was the whole thing with Korea hacking the emails. So, and the rumor was that they were going to make a third one with Andrew Garfield, and they had already pretty much put it out there. Hey, we're going to do Sinister Six. We're going to bring in Andrew Garfield. We're going to do blah blah blah. And, the story was that Andrew Garfield never showed up to Sony. They had this, big press conference in, I think it was Brazil. And then he skipped it. And he ended up going to, one of the World Cup or something. He didn't show up. So then Sony just pulled an audible and said, you know what, we're not making any more Spider-Man movies at the moment. And there was all this talk of, is Sony going to bring Spider-Man into the Marvel Universe? Are they going to test out the waters? See how that works out. Lo and behold, it was announced, Spider-Man will be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he will be in Civil War, which, he showed up in Civil War. They announced Tom Holland will be playing him, and then the year after that is when Homecoming came out. And then a couple more years after that, more Spider-Man appearances. You had Infinity War, you had Endgame, and then just most recently you had Far From Home, which the first Spider-Man movie to ever cross $1 billion. And the talk going around was that if Far From Home, if Marvel Studios couldn't make $1 billion with Far From Home, then Sony could legally take it back. You know, that was the deal they had in place, which, again, for Marvel, it's like, come on, we made a talking tree relevant. We made that money with Captain Marvel. I mean, come on. So they made $1 billion. And then, you know, more news kept breaking that, you know, Far From Home became the highest grossing film in Sony's history, like passing one of the James Bond films. I'm forgetting what it was. So you weren't even thinking about, okay, like this is going to go. The only thing that you weren't really hearing was that when is the next movie coming out? Because at Comic-Con, it was they announced Phase 4 and they announced their movies and their TV shows, which are going to be on Disney Plus. So you didn't hear anything about, you know, when the next Spider-Man film is going to be. So it didn't really worry me because, you know, the thing about Kevin Feige and, you know, Marvel Studios is that they're one of those people that, you know, when they say we have a 5-year plan, we have a 5-year plan. So he already knew what his next phase is going to be. You want to give Spider-Man a little time to chill and relax after that big movie. And it was pretty obvious, you know, it was more likely going to be in Phase 5 or Phase 6. So the news broke, and I just remember turning on Facebook. And literally the first article was on, I think, comicbook.com or Comic Book Resources. Not like one of these like fake, you know, kind of phony clickbait sites like Cosmic Books or Movie Resources. No, this is comicbook.com, Comic Book Resources. And lo and behold, the big title was, you know, Sony and Marvel kill their Spider-Man deal. Which I'm thinking, that was my first thought, like, this has to be fake. This has to be some bullshit. This can't be real. So I go on Twitter, I go everywhere, and that's literally the big headline. That's Spider-Man. What's up, Sasha? That Spider-Man is now out of the MCU. Let me just pull up the headline I have here. It's on Deadline. These are on like legit, you know, like news sites like Deadline, Variety. Previous Deadline exclusive, which came out a couple days ago. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige won't produce any further Spider-Man films because of an inability by Disney and Sony Pictures to reach in terms that would have given the former a co-financing stake going forward. A dispute that has taken place over the past few months at the top of Disney and Sony has essentially nixed Feige and the future involvement of Marvel from the Spider-Man universe. Source said, that was it. Skyfall. Spider-Man Far From Home past Skyfall is the highest-grossing Sony film of all time. Sources say that there are 2 more Spider-Man films in the works, and the studio hopes to have director John Watts and Tom Holland front and center. Though Watts doesn't have a deal for the next picture and isn't a lot to return, this isn't helped by the fact that unless something dramatic happens, Feige won't be the lead creative producer on both pictures. So basically, what I read was that, because everybody's going more after Sony than Disney for this, because people were just assuming, you know, Sony was just being dicks. Disney got greedy. Because here's the story. You know, they were renegotiating, and Sony told, you know, Disney, hey, we'll just keep the original deal in place. We're fine with it. You know, the deal was that Marvel would receive 5% of the first dollar gross, or Disney. I need to make that abundantly clear. This is all Disney. You know, yeah, it's Marvel Studios, but Disney owns Marvel Studios, so I'm just gonna make that clear. Disney had a 5% first dollar gross. And what is it? They also own like the merchandise, you know. So basically, they own a big chunk of the merchandise, you know, revenue. So basically, anytime you go to like Target or Walmart or Kmart or any mart, then, you know, you'll see those like Titan Marvel hero toys, you know, for like, you know, Spider-Man, Venom, Agent Venom, or whatever. And all that's going to go to Marvel. So, yeah, Sony was like, you know, we'll just keep the 95% that we already had. We'll, you know, you guys can keep 5%. It's fine. Don't bother us. We're cool with it. Disney had apparently asked for a 50-50. And I'm going to read it right here just to make it more legit. Disney asked the future Spider-Man films to be a 50-50 co-financing arrangement between the studios, and there were discussions that this might extend to other films in the Spider-Man universe. Sony turned that offer down flat. Sources said that Sony, led by Tom Rothman and I don't know how to say this guy's name, Tony Vinciquerra, came back with other configurations, but Disney didn't want to do that. But Sony did not want to share its biggest franchise. Sure, Disney will be putting up half the funding, but the risk is in how much you are going to make back in profit. Disney wasn't all interested in continuing the current terms when Marvel receives in the range of 5% of the first dollar grosses, said. Is there more? This thing's taking forever. Sources said Disney's top brass for the past several months has sought new terms for Feige and the Marvel cross-pollination to continue. As the Spider-Man relationship grew, Feige and Sony Pictures chief Rothman spoke about the possibility of a wider involvement in Sony-controlled Spider-Man universe, which contains about 900 characters. Sources said that Sony reasoned that they will be fine without Feige. The creative template has been set on the Spider-Man films, and Watt and Holland are in place along with Amy Pascal, who became producer with Feige after she exited the executive suite after presiding over the previous Spider-Man iterations, directed by Sam Raimi and Mark Webb as the Sony Pictures chief. Sources note that Venom was a problem picture and far from the polished product that grossed over $856 million worldwide, until Rothman himself spent a good long time in the editing room helping it get there. Alright, so that's the previous article. Here on Deadline, I'm going to go to the updated article if this fucking page wants to start working. Come on. Don't be difficult. Why is this thing being difficult? Come on. I think it's because I have too many pages up. Or too many tabs up, I mean. Okay, updated at 8:55 p.m. PT with Sony response. Sony Pictures spent much of yesterday trying to spin Deadline about the prospective loss of Kevin Feige from future Spider-Man films. For the first, the studio downplayed the idea that he might be leaving. Then insiders pinned his exit on added responsibilities from the Fox acquisition of the X-Men franchise, though they declined to make a statement. All this was reflected as factors in Deadline's break of an important and widely regulated story. It was an aggressive stance by Disney, which already owns the merchandise Spider-Man, and a tough nut for Sony to swallow, giving up half of its most valuable franchise, but these talks had been going on for some time. Had Sony agreed to Disney's task, Marvel and Feige would not have withdrawn from the Spider-Man films. Sources say. Okay, can you please... Slow ass internet. Come on. Okay, I'm just going to click off this page because this page is already getting on my nerves. Alright. So, yeah, I have the statement that Sony put out later that night. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed, but respect Disney's decision to not have him continue as a lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP they do not own. Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he has helped us on, which we will continue. So it's painfully obvious that Sony is pointing the finger at Disney. Like I mentioned before, it's really not Sony's fault. Disney is at fault because Sony, again, pretty much just said, hey, we're willing to just go with the original deal. We're fine. We don't want to be greedy. We don't want to change anything. You guys can keep your 5%. We'll do the 95% because, we own this first. Yeah, this is Marvel. This is a Marvel property. This is a Marvel character. But at the end of the day, we've had... Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Alright, this random song just came on. I'm trying to turn it off. Alright, I'm sorry. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I have too many pages up, and for whatever reason... Okay, page unresponsive. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to ad-lib from here because this fucking internet wants to go slow as shit today. So basically, what I've gathered from this whole thing is that this is all Marvel. This is all Disney. I know, Mish talked about on Side Salad yesterday that, Kevin Feige's an asshole. This is not Kevin Feige's doing. Kevin Feige's in charge of Marvel Studios. He's not in charge of Disney. Disney is the one that's being greedy. Disney is apparently, asking for a shit ton of money, which is just like, okay, you guys had 5 movies that broke the $1 billion bank. You made a dick ton of money this year. Why is it that you need more money? Like, why do you need to be greedy and ask for 50? If it was like, and you know what? One of the links I had up, had suggested that Disney had asked for a lot less than what was going on, and that was the link I had up, but for whatever reason it went slow. Have it up here at comicbook.com. Initial reports stated that Disney had asked for a 50% stake in regards to upcoming Spider-Man movies, but in a new report from the Hollywood Reporter, the number isn't as high. The number cited here is a 30% stake, which is still significant, but 20% can make a world of difference when you're talking about $1 billion at the box office, which far from home achieved. For Sony, it seems even the 30% number cuts too far into their profits for their liking, and any studio would rather have that $790 million over the $553 million amounts, especially since they didn't get any of the merchandising money or money from the MCU films. Sony also gets an annual royalty from Marvel depending on how well the MCU Spider-Man films do. The bigger they do at the box office, the lower the royalty, and on the previous film, that was around $30 million. Wow. Marvel still has all the merchandising rights for the character, of course, so they still do get money from the movies, though the toy lines, but it's not directly from the profits of the film. Alright. All I know about this is I have a feeling it will get resolved. Again, Disney is at stake. Disney is at fault here. It has nothing to do with Sony. I think if they went for maybe like 10%, say, hey, can we get 10%? Or maybe even 15%. That would have been fine. That wouldn't have been too high, but that would have been fine. But then to come out and say, we want 50. We want all this shit. We want all of it. We don't want 5%. We're fucking Disney, goddammit. And Sony, to their credit, stood up to Disney and went, no, we're not gonna let you bully us around in 50. We're being gracious. Who the fuck? Okay. I'm getting way too many fucking notifications on this computer for no reason. It has been determined your system will operate slower and your battery will not charge. It was charging this whole fucking time. whatever. Go away. A lot of this shit keeps throwing me off. I'm sorry, guys, but it'll work out because you can make a Spider-Man movie without that influence of, the MCU and Disney. You can. I mean, it's been proven lately. Venom, it wasn't everybody's favorite movie. It wasn't everyone's cup of tea. I liked it. I didn't think it was the greatest movie ever. I didn't really think it was, as far as like other Marvel movies in the past, I didn't think it was that good. But it was enjoyable. Not like the way the critics were saying it was. It was a fun movie. It was fun. And then you had Into the Spider-Verse, which I got a great movie. Pretty much swept every single award show, Oscar, Golden Globe, SAG Awards, for Best Animated Picture. They proved that they don't need that Kevin Feige Disney touch to make the movie successful. The one thing I think a lot of people have said about the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies is that it just seems like there's always that event. There's always that Tony Stark influence to it, which it is, because they brought him into Civil War, through Tony Stark, because Tony Stark apparently had. They didn't really say how he found him. It was just suggested that he knew about this kid all along, or maybe he heard about him through the grapevine, or maybe Tony just got bored and started watching YouTube videos for no reason, and saw this amazing Spider Kid. Found out it was Peter Parker, and Tony Stark was his mentor. He was essentially a new Uncle Ben to him, which I always thought it was kind of disturbing that they never even mentioned Uncle Ben, which makes sense because you don't want to keep constantly killing Uncle Ben or really talking about him. You want this to be a different look for Peter Parker in the Spider-Man movies. So, but for them to apparently make more Spider-Man movies and to continue the storyline with Tom Holland, apparently with John Watts, who apparently isn't even locked in to do 2 more movies, and that's the talk, is that they want to make 2 more movies with Tom Holland as Spider-Man with John Watts, but he's not signed on. Tom Holland is apparently signed on for 1 more movie, but it's more of an option. It's kind of like in basketball or in any sport where you're signed on for 4 years and the 4th year is optional. It's kind of like that. And now the talk is that Tom Holland probably won't even come back. He's already unfollowed Sony from his social media. So is Zendaya. Which, here's what I'm saying, is there's no way you can make a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie and have it be not connected to the Marvel Universe. There's no way you can do that, because everything about that character is connected to the Marvel Universe. Because there's no way you can't talk about Tony Stark or Stark Tech or the Iron Spider suit or Thanos or the Blip. Or I'm just going to call it the Snap. The Blip just sounds dumb. The Snap. And then you had the storyline with Happy and Aunt May. And then you had S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury. And then at the end of the movie, spoilers, it was revealed that the Skrulls were, Nick Fury the whole time. And then, a lot of the Spider-Man villains are connected to Tony Stark. So how are you going to make a movie where that whole character is connected to that world, but not have any mention of any of that? You can't do it. You really can't do it. Like, you can, at the end of Far From Home, that character grew up. Because in the first movie, it was about him growing up. It was about proving that he can be Spider-Man without Tony Stark. And then, in the second movie, it was about, can I live up to Tony Stark? Can I live up to that name, to that legacy? And at the end of the movie, it showed that he could. Like, you can do that without constantly having to mention Tony Stark or having to mention, the Avengers or Thanos. But it would just be really confusing to people and it just would really kind of look retarded if there's not that influence of it, a little bit. If there's not a little bit of that influence of Tony Stark, where, you know, Peter can mention Tony from time and time again. And then, of course, you have S.H.I.E.L.D. in the picture, you have the Skrulls. It would just look weird. It wouldn't make sense. I honestly think they're going to work something out, because, you know, the talk is that Sony's, you know, stock has dropped, you know, rapidly, like almost embarrassingly, since, you know, the announcement that they weren't going to do any more Marvel movies. They weren't going to be connected to the MCU. And then again, you have Tom Holland, who apparently is pissed off about it. It seems like he's going through the 5 stages of denial, or the 5 stages of grief, which is, you know, first being denial. So, and again, going back to what I said, this is all Disney. You know, Disney decided to be greedy and decided to take advantage of the deal, and Sony just said, no, you know, this is our character. You can either take the deal or not. So, at the end of the day, this will get worked out. If you know, James Gunn taught me anything, you know, James Gunn got fired from Marvel, and then 7-8 months later, he came back. You know, this is an entirely different situation, because this isn't just a director. You know, James Gunn's a director. This is an entire franchise we're talking about. This is a character that's beloved by millions. I'm pretty sure Sony is not going to want to reboot this character. They've already done it too much. They spent a lot of time and energy in this character. Tom Holland spent a lot of time and energy in this character. He's played the character 5 times, which is more than Tobey Maguire. And he's gone through a lot. His character's gone through a lot. The last movie, you know, the ending just seemed like, okay, we're going in a completely different direction. It looks like it's going to be more dark. It's going to be focused more on Peter, rather than, oh, I wonder what Tony Stark is up to. I wonder what Captain America's up to. This is going to be Peter's problems. But it needs to have that Marvel influence. It needs to have that MCU influence. From the statement, it indicated that they still, you know, Disney still wants to do business. They still want to keep Spider-Man, but it all comes down to Kevin Feige, because Kevin Feige has a lot on his plate. You know, now he has the newer characters like the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and then you got newer movies coming out like Shang-Chi, you got Blade now coming into the picture. So it's understandable if they want him to focus more of his time on the stuff they actually own. But at the end of the day, Disney would be stupid to let this go. They would be dumb to let this go. And the talk is that they're still going to negotiate. I don't know how long it would take. It might take a couple weeks. It might take a month. It might even take a year. Either way, Disney would be a fool to let this go. They need to let go of their foolish pride and just come to a compass, come to a reasoning agreement as to how they're going to keep this character in their universe, because they need it. They have to. They already have their universe planned out. If they lose Spider-Man, they're fucked. It's going to look bad for them. It's going to look bad for them. Sony, maybe not so much, because now Sony can say, okay, now we can have this character play with our other characters. You know, we can get a Venom versus Spider-Man movie. We can get an R-rated Venom movie, because the talk is that the reason why they made Venom PG-13 was because of MCU. It was because, well, there's a possibility we can bring this character into their movies, so we have to tone it down. Now that, you know, they have Spider-Man back and they are not connected to, they're not, you know, they're divorced from, you know, Disney, they can go, okay, now we can make Venom 2 rated R. Now we can make Morbius Living Vampire rated R. Now we can make all our other properties, you know, more edgy, a little bit more adult. It'd be interesting, but it would just be a shame if they decide to just start from scratch and go, we're just going to start all over again, which I don't see them doing that. I don't see that happening. I don't see Sony going, bye-bye Tom Holland, because Tom Holland, again, the guy seems like he genuinely loves playing this role. He said on occasion, I want to play Spider-Man until I can't walk anymore. He wants to stay on as Spider-Man, and he obviously seems like he's pro Disney rather than pro Sony, because Disney's the one that cast him. But I seriously hope. I seriously do hope that they make up, that they kiss and make up, that they find a deal. I don't care what the deal is. You need to keep Spider-Man in the MCU. You just have to. For a while, I was saying, it seems like Spider-Man will almost be like the new face of the MCU. Now that Stark is gone, Downey. Now that Evans is gone, Hemsworth is going to stay on for a bit. Johansson is... Her current Black Widow is gone, but she's going to do that past, prequel Black Widow movie, so she's going to stay on. Now you got newer characters like, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, Black Panther. Spider-Man would pretty much be the face of the MCU. You need to keep him. You need to find a way to keep him. And I honestly think they will. But it would just be a shame. What else is going on? Yeah, so they made the announcement that NXT is moving to Wednesdays. Officially September 18th. Which I've been saying, tirelessly that... just to remind all of you, September 18th will be my 100th episode. So, as far as episode 100 goes, I'm still trying to plan that shit out. I'm trying to think of what I can do for you guys. I might have a big guest booked. I might even have a couple guests booked. I'm still trying to work shit out. I might even do something pretty nice for you guys. So, you guys will find out, I would say, 2 weeks before the actual show happens, so September 4th. I'll try and lay everything out as much as I can, as smoothly as I can. So, basically, you guys are in for a big show. Trust me, you guys are in for a pretty big show on September 18th. And also, again, going back to NXT on Wednesdays, what the fuck was that? The big, kind of like the big worry that people seem to have about NXT is that, since it's going to be on the USA Network, that Vince would be more hands-on. According to this article on WrestlingInc.com, Vince is staying hands-off with NXT on the USA Network. NXT contracts will be changed. It is believed that WWE NXT superstars will receive new contracts soon due to the move of the USA Network, according to Wrestling Observer newsletter. There's no word yet on details of the contracts, but word is that they will see NXT talents receive pay that is closer to what the main roster superstars are making. Wow. So fucking Adam Cole, Gargano, they're going to be making bank, so good for them. Good for them. At least the top-tier talents from what they're making now. This has not been confirmed, but word going around is that all developmental deals will be changed over to the main roster deals soon. So, that's good for them. They deserve it. I don't mean to sound like a mark, but it's just NXT is clearly superior to the main roster. Better wrestling, better shows. The crowd seems a lot hotter for it. Good for them. I'm happy for everybody getting big paydays, which they deserve. If you're going to be on, the main network, if you're going to be on, USA, it would make sense for the guys to get raises. So I'm good for that. I'm all for that. So good for them. WWE will likely raise their offers to potential incoming talents from here on out. So good. As noted, I don't know how to say this name. Guggenheim Securities analyst Curry Baker estimates that NXT USA Network TV deal will bring $30 million per year for WWE for 1 or 2 years based off of conversations they have with the company. Regarding potential changes to the NXT process now that the show is moving to the USA Network, word is that the brand will continue on the same path with Triple H in charge and no Kevin Dunn or Vince. So good for that. It is known that Vince McMahon, the WWE chairman, will likely stay hands off for the most part, at least as long as the NXT ratings are good. It should be good. Hopefully it'll be good. There's always that worry because, I've had guests on the show and we've talked about NXT and, not everybody watches NXT. This is a good opportunity for NXT now because now you can bring in more people. Now you can get more eyes and ears on the product. Will it have better ratings than Raw? I don't know because how many times have we always said this verbatim? Top NXT superstar is coming to the main roster. He's going to do great. He had all these great matches on NXT. He owned TakeOver, and then he comes on the main roster. It seems like the audience doesn't really either care for him or they don't know him that well. So, time will only tell. Anyways, let's continue this article. I'm trying to get comfortable here, guys. I'm sorry. It was noted that WWE chairman will likely stay hands-off for the most part. We said that Vince doesn't have much free time as it is these days, and he will be even busier with it when his XFL Football League launches in 2020. Vince will likely get more involved if AEW ends up winning the Wednesday Night Raw ratings, or War ratings. So that makes sense. A lot to do with the NXT's future is up in the air. And open to change at this point, including a possible move out of Full Sail and the increased use of major roster superstars and other ideas, suggestions or changes. So yeah, that would make sense. Are we expecting to see more crossovers? I personally would not like to see that happen, maybe not just yet. The one thing that we've been kind of pining for and Triple H kind of hinted at is NXT versus WWE. When are we going to get that crossover? When are we going to get that invasion? I think for the most part, allow NXT to be its own thing. Let it be. We all know NXT is owned by WWE. We all know that. But the illusion that we've always, preferred is NXT is its own world. It's its own universe. Which is why it's always shocking when we see WWE superstars show up on NXT TV. Like, what? But he works for WWE, not NXT. You know what I mean? But just let NXT be its own thing. I remember, and this is kind of comparing apples to oranges, but, Joey Styles had said in an interview one of the reasons why XFL couldn't really live on its own was the fact that literally every week you would have WWF superstars. You had Vince McMahon come out, you have The Rock come out, you have Stone Cold come out every week because a lot of people assume since Vince owns it, it's going to be wrestling and football. It's not. It's going to be one or the other, or it's going to be more wrestling than football. So I think to really let NXT be its own thing, you kind of want it to be its own thing. Like, don't give it that WWE influence, even though we know it's owned by WWE. But again, the illusion has always been NXT. It's its own world. It's its own universe. It's in its own bubble. So keep it that way. Every now and then, have guys show up. Have AJ Styles show up to NXT, which would be interesting. Have Cesaro show up to NXT. Have Kevin Owens show up to NXT. Have The Fiend show up to NXT. Or, you can have your legends show up. But at the beginning, just let NXT be its own thing. Just so the people are more used to the show. People are more used to the superstars. People can be more accustomed to Adam Cole or, the Undisputed Era, or Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa. Because when they see, and this is just my opinion, when they constantly see WWE guys on NXT, they're going to assume, oh, so is this just another WWE show? No, they're going to watch NXT and get used to, and get more accustomed to the Undisputed Era, Johnny Gargano. And then there's going to be that thought process of, I'd really like to see AJ Styles versus Johnny Gargano. That'd be an interesting idea. Or I'd really like to see Samoa Joe versus whoever on NXT. Like, that'd be interesting. Keith Lee. And then when it finally happens, there's your big surprise. So keep that WWE influence, keep, superstars, away from the show, and let NXT be its own thing. Let NXT get over on its own to where you can finally say, okay, let's send some WWE guys over there to shake it up. So, as far as NXT versus AEW, I think what's going to happen, and this isn't me trying to be a hater, I'm going to watch AEW. I'm going to watch it when it comes out on TNT. Well, I think the first show for AEW is going to draw more than NXT. They're going to draw a lot more purely based on hype and interest. That's what's going to happen. After that, I think AEW is really going to need to just continue to step its game up. You can't just put all your chickens in one basket in just one episode. That has to continue each and every episode after that. I'm not expecting them to constantly get 3 or 4s in each episode, but you got to keep that momentum going. You know what I mean? You can't have people just be excited for 1 week and then after that it's just hum business as usual. I think for the most part NXT will win the war. This war that everyone talks about. Because NXT is a proven brand. It's proved itself. And again, it's owned by WWE, but it's been able to kind of separate itself from, the WWE and be its own thing. And also, most people prefer NXT over pretty much anything else. It likes to fancy itself as this is for all the indie internet darlings. So people are always going to prefer that. The shows are always white hot. The crowds always seem like they're white hot. When I watch an episode of NXT on the network, I always get that feeling of, oh, so this is what being excited and this is what enjoying a wrestling show feels like. As opposed to, hey, let's have a guy come out and cut the same promo that he's been cutting for the past 5 months. They have guys talk on the show, but the difference is those guys can actually talk. Matt Riddle can actually cut a promo. Velveteen Dream cut a promo, but that's just about it. It's the next hour is all about just wrestling, giving the fans what they want, which is wrestling. Actual wrestling, good wrestling. So, as far as like Triple H, staying in control of NXT when it, to the move to USA Network, I'm fine with that. Triple H needs to stay on. I don't doubt that Vince will be more hands-on when this Wednesday Night Wars, starts to pick up more steam. I don't doubt it. Because there's no way that Vince won't be hands-on. If there's something in his company that's picking up a lot of buzz and getting a lot of popularity and people are talking about it, Vince has to be hands-on about it. Like, there's no way he can avoid it. The whole XFL talk, if I'm going to switch topics, is that when the XFL starts, which is going to be next year, he's not going to walk away from the company, but he's going to be more hands-on with XFL rather than WWE, which is why he hired Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff, so that way, whenever he makes the move to XFL, depending on how that does, which I have a feeling it's not going to do as well, it's probably even going to do worse. He's going to focus more of his time and energy on the XFL, which, again, makes sense. They released the team names on ESPN. They showed the logos and the team names, which I'm going to pull up. Hold on. Okay, so the names will be the Dallas Renegades. Okay. Houston Roughnecks. No. Los Angeles Wildcats. That's such a generic name. That sounds like a what is it? It sounds like a high school, basketball name, like a high school, softball team name. New York Guardians. No, I don't like. I'm already looking at these names. I'm just like groaning. So, St. Louis Battlehawks. Why not just call them the Hawks? St. Louis Hawks. Actually, you know what? I think that was already a name. I think the St. Louis Hawks were already a name. So never mind. Seattle Dragons. Where have you seen any dragons in Seattle? You see more Starbucks in Seattle rather than dragons. Tampa Bay Vipers. I mean, it's not a terrible name. It's not the worst name I've heard. Washington Defenders. Ugh. And I haven't even seen the logos. Those are just some bad names. What the fuck? Alright, so I'm on Google.com. So I'm on, God awful. The Tampa Bay Vipers. I don't think that's the worst name I've heard on here, personally. Hunters by instinct, cold-blooded by nature, luring all who challenge them into the jaws of defeat. Oh boy. What the? Is that the logo? I'm not gonna lie. That looks like an actual vagina. That literally looks like a vagina. If you guys just Google it, type in Tampa Bay Vipers logo, it kind of looks like a vagina. I'm not even trying to be like a fucking pervert or anything. It looks like a vagina because it's a V. It's like a dark green V, and in the middle, you of course have the V structure. On the side, you have I guess what looks like they're supposed to be fangs. Viper fangs. It literally looks like a fucking clit. Oh my god. Good God, why was this allowed? Dallas Renegades. Dallas Renegades. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I'm assuming that's what a renegade looks like. I mean, and look at this. The Washington Defenders. Boo! On the Twitter, one quest, one purpose, one resolve, seeking glory through grit, victory through valor. and the logo is just, again, I don't know anyone who lives in Washington, so I don't want to offend anyone. Does this have anything to do with Washington? The logo, it looks to be two thunderbolts, and you have stars around it. How is that defending? Oh my! I'm gonna have a fun time with this. What does this mean? New York Guardians. That's the caption. Watchdogs over Metropolis. They are the first line of defense, and there's no need for a second. And the logo, it looks to be, I don't know if it's a gargoyle or some type of lion. So does a lion represent a guardian? I don't know. We'll continue. No, take it back, Seattle Dragons. Relentless, ruthless, ravenous, not of mythology, but of muscle and might. And it's basically just a dragon that has a very kind of sinister smirk on its face. And it's the first logo I've seen where it actually looks like the team name, so... Seattle Dragons. This literally sounds like a soccer team. I'm not gonna lie. Trash. Seattle Battlehawks. Alright. And the logo is of a giant sword. I say sword. I say the W in sword. and then you have wings around it. The logo's not bad. But yeah, I don't know, Battlehawks. That's very easy to. That's a very easy name to mess with in case the team is bad. I'm looking at a sword with wings. This is the worst idea since they decided to make the last season of Game of Thrones 6 episodes. Probably. I hope you get sued. Houston Roughnecks, mercenaries in the muck, brawlers in black and dirt, the scratching, grinding, never-bending few. And it's basically the fucking... It kind of looks like a ripoff of the Houston Oilers logo. What is a roughneck exactly? I know what the term is. Obviously they couldn't say rednecks, because that's offensive to rednecks. But why is the Houston Oilers logo representing roughnecks? Couldn't they call them like the Houston... something has to do with NASA. They can't say rockets for obvious reasons. What about the Houston Stars? Or the Houston Galaxy? Or the Houston... I don't know, something has to do with NASA. Pick something from Houston that has to do with NASA. Los Angeles Wildcats, I already said it. That literally just sounds like a fucking like softball high school team. Ugh. And it just says LA. And the logo is just LA. As somebody who went to college with the sports teams and the Wildcats, I can say without a doubt in my mind that any pro team named the Wildcats should be mocked until there's no tomorrow. Yep. I mean, Wildcats themselves are fucking ferocious and you should not mess with them. As far as like the name the Wildcats, no team should ever be called the Wildcats. I mean, I know there's the Arizona Wildcats, but no pro team should be called the Arizona Wildcats ever. Ugh. And that's it. So literally, the season starts February 2020, which sounds like it's going to be after the NFL season ends, which makes sense because you don't want that league to run over the NFL, which I'm pretty sure everyone in the NFL is looking at this and just going like they're just laughing their asses off. So you have 8 teams. I'm assuming there's no conferences. It's all just going to be one league. Everybody's going to make the playoffs, or it's going to be like a Final Four thing. I'm not saying I want this to do bad. I never want anyone to start a business and just be that dick that goes, you know what, I hope this fails. I hope they fall flat on their face. I hope they go bankrupt. But my whole thing is, why is Vince making this a thing again? If it didn't do well the first time, then why does he think it'll work great the second time? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I understand Vince is a businessman. Vince has an ego. His ego is not gonna allow this to fail. Which is why a lot of shit he's done has not done that well, like WWE Studios, which, again, they keep making films, even though the films suck. I mean, literally, what is it? One of the head guys who used to work at WWE Studios has said, here's an idea. How's about we make films that don't fucking suck? Look it up. Look it up. And then what is it? You had the bodybuilding, wrestling, or the bodybuilding federation back in the 80s. Which, I don't know too much about that, but that didn't work out. Again, I don't want this to fail. I just have a feeling it will. Just judging by the names are just bad. They're BAD bad. Could this be another alternative to the NFL? Because, the NFL is getting poo-pooed on. Maybe. It's just interesting to see how this will play out. I mean, it might do better. There's always the possibility of it might even do better than the first time. It might even be more successful. But, again, only time will tell. The only thing that matters is that Vince will be away from WWE for a while, and he'll focus on this. So, good for that. I guess that's really it, all I want to talk about. that's really all I had on the agenda. I already talked about Spider-Man. I already talked about AEW or NXT, which was really the only noteworthy thing going on in wrestling. Yeah, that's really it. That's really about it. Much love, shout-outs to the Wrestling Soup, which I made the announcement on Twitter. This past Sunday, I was officially put on the network, on the Wrestling Soup network. So whenever you go to WrestlingSoup.com, I'm on the front page of shows that are, affiliated with Wrestling Soup. Don Tony Kevin Castle, shout out to them. Don Tony Kevin Castle, Julian the Wrestling Court, shout out to Julian. So I'm now a part of I'm a part of the family. False Count Radio with Andrew Carlick, another good dude. Make sure to go to the Soup, not just the Soups, but DTKC's Patreon. For just the lowest being $5, you can sign up for their Patreon and get all kinds of cool shit. For the Wrestling Soup, you get shows like Global Botting with John Draper, another good friend of mine. You get Side Sound with Mish and John. For DTKC, you get Breakfast Soup with DT and Mish. DT, I want to send out well wishes to DT. He just had surgery today, so much love to DT. For Kevin Castle has 2 shows on Patreon. He has a solo show which is called Castle Chronicles, which I believe they just put out a new episode today. And then Dark Chronicles featuring another good friend of the show and a good personal friend of mine, Trez. I'm going to see if I can get her on pretty soon. I'm going to try and get her on maybe next week or in a couple weeks. Or she might even show up for episode 100. You never know. Texas Podcast Massacre. Mitch, Nate, and Lisa. I was on that show twice. Good friends, my Texas brethren. I don't want to say anything yet, but I might even just be making it. I might be. We're talking about possibly doing another show together. So I want to get them. I want to get them on the show. I want to get them on this show sometime. That'd be fun. Architect Podcast with Derek and Irving. Derek's a good friend of mine. I've known him for quite a while. Much love to them. Let's look out for their podcast. Peter Position with my good friend Peter. Another good friend I've known for a while. You can find his podcast. I just know of his podcast being on Spotify, because that's what I have it on. I'm pretty sure you can find it elsewhere. Tyler the Trademark. You can find his podcast anywhere as well. I had him on the show last week. We reviewed SummerSlam. Good dude. Good friend of the show, Tyler. I'm trying to think of who else. There's got to be someone else I'm thinking of. Ruben Prime TV podcast. You can find him anywhere as well. Another good friend of the show. And as far as where you can find my podcast, you could literally find me anywhere. Spreaker is the home base. This is where all my shows get uploaded, and it gets uploaded to other platforms like Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, and you can also find me on YouTube. I sometimes, and by sometimes I mean not as much as I used to, I'll sometimes do reaction videos. I just do those for fun. But you can literally find my show anywhere. And also on the Wrestling Soup Network, so go there and find me. I will be back next week, as usual. I will be back next Wednesday. God forbid, knock on wood, if anything were to happen. But as far as I know, I'll be back next week. If anything comes up, I will let you guys know. And make sure to follow me on Twitter, The Drew Yari Show. Instagram, same name. Facebook, I have a Facebook page, same name. And that's really about it. Anyways, oh shit, I clicked up. God damn it. Anyways, take care guys, later.